Dumb and Dumber stars Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, and yes, like the movie's title suggests, they are pretty dumb, as well as being very hilarious to watch. Released in 1994, Dumb and Dumber tells the story of Harry and Lloyd, two morons who share a flat together, who decide to go across country to return a briefcase full of money to its owner, Mary Swanson, played by Lauren Holly, after Lloyd sees her leaving it in an airport without realizing the money was ransom money for a kidnapping. Harry and Lloyd have many memorable, idiotic adventures along the way, when they finally catch up to Swanson in Colorado, where they are caught up in a kidnapping heist, in this classic comedy that is considered one of the funniest movies to come out of the 90s. So today we are looking into 10 things that you didn't know about Dumb and Dumber, the movie that has now forever given us the popular meme of Jim Carrey gagging, for us all to use when we see gross stuff online. So let's check it out. I like it a lot.
That's a lovely accent you have. New Jersey?
Austria.
Austria? Well then, good day, mate. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie.
Number 10. It was originally a story about a funeral parlor. Dumb and Dumber was the brainchild of writer and director duo, the Farrelly brothers, Peter and Bobby. The two brothers would go on to bring us many comedy classics, such as There's Something About Mary, Me, Myself and Irene, Shallow Hal and The Heartbreak Kid, and more recently Peter directed the hit Don Shirley biography movie, Green Book. However, Dumb and Dumber was their first project, and their original draft was incredibly different to the movie that we got. Originally, the movie was called Dust to Dust, and was about the exploits of two wacky friends who work in a funeral parlor, giving the comedy classic a much more grim setting. The script was actually bought and paid for by a studio, but was actually left to collect dust as the original script, as we know, never got made into a movie.
Tic-tac, sir?
And so later down the track, Peter and Bobby returned to their script and made several changes to the story, with it more resembling the Dumb and Dumber that we all know and love. Number 9. No one wanted to make the movie. When the Farrelly brothers returned to their Dumb and Dumber story, the script went through several different titles, like the very interesting title of A Power Tool Is Not a Toy. Yep, just rolls off the tongue, along with Go West. And Peter and Bobby really liked the title Dumb and Dumber, as it went with the idiotic, fun, carefree feel of the movie. However, this led to pitching problems, as believe it or not, no studio wanted to touch a movie called Dumb and Dumber. Now, keep in mind that Dumb and Dumber wasn't the pop cultural thing that it is now, and no one was to know that it would be a hit. But someone who did believe in it was Michael DeLuca of New Line Cinema. However, the company's CEO and Nightmare on Elm Street series producer Bob Shaye was not sold on the idea, but he reluctantly went through with the project.
She's gonna buy me a diamond ring.
Number 8. Original choice for Harry and Lloyd. Dumb and Dumber just would not be Dumb and Dumber without the comedic talents of Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, along with their amazingly moronic on-screen chemistry. However, apparently the original choice for the roles were Nicolas Cage and Gary Oldman. Wow, that would have made it a very different movie. However, the two actors turned the parts down. Other actors whom were considered to play Harry and Lloyd include Steve Martin, Martin Short, Rob Lowe and Chris Elliott, all of whom would turn the movie down. In fact, New Line Cinema had a list of comedic talents that they were seeking to star in the movie, in which all the actors turned the movie down. So it was now time to switch the focus to a new rising talent from the Great White North. Number 7. Ace Ventura got the ball rolling. Jim Carrey was suggested to Peter and Bobby by a producer whom had seen Carrey on the sketch show In Living Color. However, the Farrelly brothers had never heard of the uprising comedian before. At that time, Carrey had just finished shooting Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. The brothers organised a screening of Ace Ventura, and when they saw it, they loved what they saw, and they knew right away that Carrey was the perfect choice to play Lloyd. At the time of being cast, Carrey was working on The Mask. And yes, the actor literally went from working on Ace Ventura straight to The Mask, and from there straight to Dumb and Dumber, with all movies coming out in 1994 and all being pretty groundbreaking. I can remember that Jim Carrey was already a big deal thanks to Ace Ventura and The Mask, and by the time Dumb and Dumber came out, it was just like the cherry on top of the cake. And in no way did it feel like an oversaturation of Jim Carrey. Yep, it was an awesome time to be alive, where more Carrey still didn't feel like enough Carrey. Number 6, Carrey gets a pay rise and Daniels gets a pay cut. Jim Carrey only made $350,000 for his work on Ace Ventura and $540,000 for The Mask. Although The Mask hadn't been released yet, by the time of Dumb and Dumber's early production, Ace Ventura was, and it made a staggering $107 million at the box office. And thanks to those numbers, Carrey was now in high demand and thus was able to negotiate a $7 million fee for working on Dumb and Dumber, finally putting his income in Hollywood superstar status.
I like it a lot.
Jeff Daniels, however, was not so lucky. The Farrelly brothers wanted Daniels because they liked his performance in the 1986 comedy movie Something Wild. However, since then, Daniels had become more well established as a serious actor. Heck, the same year as Dumb and Dumber came out, he played an ill-fated SWAT officer in the action movie Speed. The irony is, in that movie, his character's name was also Harry. What are the odds? Because of his association to more serious roles, both New Line Cinema and Daniels' agent didn't want him to star in Dumb and Dumber. But Daniels really wanted to star in it, so to get him in the movie, he took an incredibly low fee of $50,000. But it seems that didn't bother Daniels, as in a recent interview he said that making the movie was so much fun.
We're there.
Number 5, iconic hotel of horror. Although Dumb and Dumber may be considered as one of the most funniest movies of all time, it also has a connection to one of the most scariest stories ever told, that being The Shining. You see, the Danbury Hotel, the luxurious hotel that is seen in the movie, is actually the Stanley Hotel, the hotel in the Colorado Rockies where Stephen King stayed one night and supposedly had a terrifying ghostly encounter, which prompted him to write The Shining, one of the greatest horror stories of modern literature. In fact, 3 years after Dumb and Dumber, King's more faithful Shining miniseries adaptation was also filmed at the Stanley Hotel, as that was his original vision for what the Overlook would look like. Thankfully, there doesn't seem to be any stories floating about of Harry and Lloyd having any sinister ghostly encounters during their stay at the notorious hotel. Wow, Harry and Lloyd getting chased by an axe-wielding Jack Torrance. Now what an interesting movie that would have made.
Hi, Lloyd. A little slow tonight, isn't it?
Number 4, dumb ad-lib stuff. As I mentioned in my Ace Ventura episode, Jim Carrey did a lot of ad-libbing and improvising while filming that movie, with him making up a lot of the dialogue on the spot. Well, the same thing more or less happened on the set of Dumb and Dumber. The Farrelly brothers claim that at least 15% of the movie was ad-libbed by the actors. The most famous of the ad-lib scene is the most annoying noise in the world scene.
Want to hear the most annoying sound in the world?
I would love to know what was going on through Carrey's head when he came up with that. It's brilliant. It seems that some of the non-ad-libbed or improvised scenes also seemed realistic. Namely the scene where Harry has a massive laxative crap attack on the toilet, only to then learn that the toilet is currently out of order and isn't working. Actor Clint Eastwood supposedly approached Jeff Daniels one time and told him that he could relate to that scene as it happened to him too once. There you go, guys. Even Dirty Harry gets the shits. Something else that also seems to have been authentic in Dumb and Dumber was the chemistry between Jim Carrey and his co-star Lauren Holly, who played Mary Swanson, as the two started dating after Dumb and Dumber was filmed and ended up getting married in 1996. But don't get too warm and fuzzy inside, as with most Hollywood fairy tales, they got divorced the following year. Number 3, animated series. So in 1995, legendary animation company Hanna-Barbera produced an animated series based on Dumb and Dumber. Hanna-Barbera, although seeming old school, did occasionally produce movie-based cartoons, as a few years earlier they produced the animated series for Bill and Ted, and before that a Teen Wolf animated series, among others. The animation style had that sort of wacky Nickelodeon style that was common in the 90s, with exaggerated features, but despite that, it still somehow captured the characters' likenesses. Bill Fagerbakke voiced Harry. Fagerbakke would become more famous for voicing Patrick Star from SpongeBob SquarePants, and Max Headroom actor Max Frewer voiced Lloyd. Sadly, I never watched this series, nor was I even aware of it at the time, but it seems that I'm not the only one, as it only lasted for one season consisting of 13 episodes. I swear that every time I talk about an animated series based on a movie, I'm always saying it only lasted one season consisting of 13 episodes. Yep, they don't seem to last. Number 2, alternative ending. We all know the hilariously iconic ending to Dumb and Dumber, where Harry and Lloyd are down on their luck walking in the desert, when a Hawaii bikini model tour bus approaches them, asking them where they can find 2 guys to oil them up for their tour, where Harry tells them that there is a town up the road.
Do you realize what you've done? Hey!
Where Lloyd frantically chases after the bus, and just when you think he's going to offer his services, tells them it's in the other direction.
You'll have to excuse my friend. He's a little slow. The town is back that way.
It's a perfect ending which demonstrates the lovable, absent-minded idiocy of the characters. However, the original ending was slightly different, where the hotel concierge, whom I swear looks like Roger Ebert, offers them a job and free accommodation at the hotel, where they just basically laugh in his face. Yeah, I'm glad this ending wasn't used, as it feels a little mean. I mean, look at his poor face. Well, I guess, yeah, it's funny, but the other ending is better and more memorable. The studio actually wanted the movie to end with Harry and Lloyd getting on the bikini bus, but the Farrelly brothers wisely refused, as them not getting on the bus is way funnier, and goes with the movie's title of Dumb and Dumber. Number 1, Dumb and Dumber sticks it to Forrest Gump. The movie's poster for Dumb and Dumber is probably just as iconic as the movie itself, as we are all familiar with the image of a crazy-looking Harry and Lloyd, with Jeff Daniels pulling Jim Carrey's ears and Carrey pulling Daniels' hair. I love how in the original photo used for the poster, we can see that Carrey is not pulling Daniels' hair, but also pulling his ears too. To which, for the poster, they had to drastically thicken up Daniels' hair to make it look like Carrey is pulling it. Also, they gave Daniels more of a serious, absent-minded face. And also in the original photo, Carrey doesn't have the famous chip in his tooth, which was an actual chip that Carrey had, which he hid with a tooth cap. However, another poster shows Harry and Lloyd observing the movie poster while sitting on a park bench, which is an obvious poke at Forrest Gump, which also came out at the same time as Dumb and Dumber, of which its poster featured Tom Hanks in a similar pose on a park bench. I also love how the bench that Harry and Lloyd are sitting on has a wet paint sign. Dumb and Dumber opened at the number 1 spot in the box office, and would go on to make over $247 million on a $17 million budget, making it a huge hit. This time the critics were more welcoming to Jim Carrey than they were when Ace Ventura came out. Although there were still some criticisms, he was praised as being the new Jerry Lewis. To show the divide between critics and audiences, Dumb and Dumber won several MTV awards, but was also nominated for a Razzie. Yeah, that happened. But regardless, Dumb and Dumber has gone on to become a comedy classic. A well-loved movie in which people can't seem to get enough of the simple-minded adventures of Harry and Lloyd. So that was my fairly dumb look into Dumb and Dumber. I hope you all enjoyed it and maybe even learned something new. And if not, then, you didn't. To me, Dumb and Dumber is like another milestone in the increasingly growing career of Jim Carrey at that time. But it's also more than that. It's a genuinely funny movie, so if you love stupid humour, which let's be honest can be pretty funny when done right, then check out Dumb and Dumber. Anyway, I'm Minty, and I'm off to put another shrimp on the barbie. See ya!